Guys, let's talk about free agency. Now, I know you might say, whoa, you're making this video early. It's only January 10th, bro. Yes, but you have to keep in mind that a lot of these players will be signed to active rosters by the time we start talking about free agency. So I want to go ahead and look at the list now, kind of see where we can move, what direction we can move in, and then obviously down the line, when we do have free agency, we can also see, who potentially could be available, right? So again, we're going to be kind of judging based on, who are we going to re-sign or not re-sign based on who's available. So at the quarterback position, we're not really looking at a quarterback. Now, could we look for a more long-term backup option behind Joe Burrow where it isn't Jake Browning? There's always a potential. And depending on who's available, depends on, what options we want to go with. Keep in mind, well, yes, Jake Browning is the backup quarterback. Let's say you go into training camp and preseason, you want to have multiple quarterbacks on your roster. You have a 90-man roster. You have plenty of room. So if you potentially see 1, 2, or 3 guys on the free agency that you're like, oh, those guys are kind of interesting, you might sign 1 or 2 of them just to have in training camp and preseason to see, well, could they do something special, right? So just because of the fact that, we have Jake Browning and he definitely has looked pretty good over the last couple of weeks of the season, doesn't mean that we 100% are, if someone better comes out there or someone a better option comes, we're just going to completely avoid it. We're still going to go for whatever makes this roster the best. So just a little side note there. Although, I will say, I don't think we're going to go for an older veteran quarterback. For example, we're not going Kirk Cousins, Tannehill, hell no. Jacoby Brissett, nope. Tyrod Taylor, all the way down the list here. Now, thing about the free agent market right now for quarterbacks is there really isn't too many good ones that I would really care about / would want over our current guy, Jake Browning. So this list right here, I'm going to go with a absolute 0 no-go for any of these quarterbacks here. Does not mean, though, after the draft, after training camp, potentially quarterbacks get cut, veteran quarterbacks get cut, players become available, right? So, while yes, right now, I'm not really, amped to look at this list and say, yeah, quarterback, so let's sign this guy. No, but after after everything goes through, then potentially we could look at some options for training camp and preseason. Now let's look at running backs. So there is no mystery here that Joe Mixon is up there in age. We have him for another year. He took a pay cut to stay with us. But Chase Brown is the future in Cincinnati. He's a future starting running back for us. I feel like for the next 5-6 years. I want to see him really progress after into next year. This year, he looked pretty solid at the end of the year. I want to see him continue to progress and get better. It does not mean you cannot pick up a veteran running back and have him as a 1, 2, 3 punch type of options. We used Travion Williams plenty of times this year. So, especially if they want to kind of do a mix match of using Chase and potentially another veteran running back with Joe Mixon, I don't think it's a bad idea. One thing we need to do next season, and what's very important, is, again, mentality-wise, run the damn ball. So, options available. So, potentially, again, signing a good running back would help us out. So, and again, if Joe Mixon in the future does leave us, we need a replacement for him too. Derrick Henry, I feel like, is a no-go. Tennessee probably brings him back. If they don't bring him back, he's just going to cost way too much. Same thing with Josh Jacobs, Tony Pollard, Saquon Barkley. Austin Eckler does look interested as a flyer, but with him being 29 years old, dealing with all the injuries he has dealt with over the years, I don't know if I love him as an option that much either. So now going down this list, we look at a lot of options where they're kind of older. So we're not really getting a guy who we could potentially have as a third string running back, or again, as a 1A, 1B with Joe Mixon, and then sprinkle in Chase Brown as well. Clyde Edwards-Helaire. This is a guy that we have talked about many times because he played at LSU with Joe Burrow. And there's a lot of fans who wanted him over to the Bengals for that said reason. He is going to be 25 in 2024, and he really has a lot of potential. Now, there's a reason why the Chiefs do not utilize him to a point where they benched him even during their Super Bowl win versus the Eagles, and he has little to zero carries throughout his last couple years. I mean, literally this year, he had 216 snaps, he had 70 rushes, 223 yards, and 1 touchdown. But you can see, I mean, over the last 2 years, he's had a total of 500 yards, 4 touchdowns, and so 400 some odd snaps and 140 rushing attempts. But he doesn't get utilized that much. Now, he does have some injury concerns. That's another thing to talk about, so let's go through. But he becomes an unrestricted free agent as of next year. Could we go potentially pick him up and utilize him? The answer to the question is yes. Well, I don't think he has the potential to become an RB1 for us or really be that crazy great piece that we need. I think he couldn't hurt us to get him for a low ball contract, pick him up, see what he can do for us, and potentially become, a nice fill-in play if we need him to. So he's option 1. DeAndre Swift. Now, DeAndre Swift's going to cost us a tad bit more money than, honestly, we probably would like. But if Philly does let him go, he's only 25 years old. And I think he has, actually 24 years old because he just turned 24. So, and he has the potential to be an amazing option for us. A lot younger than Austin Eckler. He has the very same skill set as Austin Eckler. I would not put them in the same range. I think Austin Eckler is way better, but I think that he has at least that skill set of being a receiving back. And one problem we have is really getting the ball, to our receivers, getting our receivers open, making plays. Having a receiving back who could run, like, let's say, for example, a Texas route or an out route and actually be a very solid, reliable piece for us, I don't think it's a bad idea to go ahead and go with. So he is a second option here. Again, 25 years old. I think he has potential to be something special. Now, going down this list here, again, like I said, there's a lot of, no-name running backs / backup running backs who really potentially could be a guy you fill in and see what he could do, but it's not really going to give us too much opportunity / potential. And again, like I said, at that point, I might draft a guy or go with an even younger no-name player and see what we can do with him. Now, wide receiver position. I don't think we're going to target too many wide receivers because I think we franchise tag T. Higgins, we let Tyler Boyd walk, we move Yoshi up into the slot role. I know he's an outside receiver, but I think we're going to probably try to utilize him in the slot. Chuck Sizzle, or somebody down below actually said, stop using Chuck Sizzle's name as Chuck Sizzle. He's Charlie Jones now because he clearly isn't that good. Charlie Jones. Charlie Jones is our slot receiver. That's why we drafted him, but we don't utilize him in that role. So either we make, Yoshi, who first off has earned his name Yoshi, by the way. Either we make Yoshi an outside receiver converted to a slot receiver, or we sign someone in free agency to be that slot receiver. You could make the argument, well, Trenton Irwin could be a slot receiver and could do that, or we could actually start using Charlie Jones. This is all questions that I think Zach Taylor needs to answer and not myself. But other than that, though, could we sign another veteran wide receiver in replace for Tyler Boyd? My answer to that question would be yes, but I think it would have to be league minimum. And I honestly rather just draft a wide receiver than sign one in free agency. Because here's how I look at it, right? We're going to sign T to a franchise tag. We're going to franchise tag him for another year. We need to start looking toward the future past T. Higgins if we cannot get a contract done with him, right? A veteran receiver, while yes, it's a nice plug-and-play today, at the end of the day, we need to start looking toward the future down the line. So drafting a player, drafting a wide receiver potentially, I think might be a better option in the long run. So that's kind of how I look at for a receiver. Now, tight end, I want to go ahead and preface this by saying, because I did say in my other video, my draft video, I said, well, I don't think we need to draft a tight end that high. I don't think a tight end position is that important to us. And I got some backlash for it, and rightfully so. Here's what I meant by that. Zach Taylor does not utilize the tight end position. When Hayden Hurst was here, he did to a certain degree. Hayden Hurst had 500 yards. He was always the guy who seemed like could get the first down. He was a really great option for us. But other than screen passes, this whole entire season, other than screen passes and maybe occasionally short pass across the middle, we didn't utilize the tight end position that much. Tanner Hudson was what really kind of pushed us up and got us to utilize it more. But even then, it feels like Zach Taylor does not scheme the tight end position as much into the offense. It seems like they go for the running backs, they go for screen passes, and they go for trying to get wide receivers open. Now, if we had a great tight end, could that be utilized? Absolutely. And again, like I said, maybe I'm speaking out of term there because, yes, we don't have the option. So it's not like we have a top 5 tight end, like, for example, Mark Andrews, and then we're like, oh, well, he's not utilizing Mark Andrews. So let me say it like this. The tight end position is very important. Having a guy in the red zone as a vertical threat tight end. Having a guy in the red zone who can not only be a red zone reindeer, can also run block, and can also catch the ball and outbox linebackers is very important. The thing about tight ends that's awesome is if you get a good one, they're going against linebackers and safeties. They're not going against corners. So it's pretty much having like another elite receiver out there. So I will say, to take back my comments, yes, I probably should not have said we don't need one, as in the aspect of, without explaining, we don't need one if Zach Taylor is not going to scheme them in the offense. But if he is, then yes, it's also nice to have one. The guy I personally like, if we are looking at tight ends in free agency, which obviously this year did not work with Irv Smith, I think is Dalton Schwartz or Mike Krasicki. I think it was Krasicki or would be a good option. Down this list though, other than that, I don't really like too many other tight ends on this list. A lot of solid players, but I think we bring back Tanner Hudson. We also probably bring back Drew Sample, and we have Mitchell Wilcox. So unless there is one guy on this list that is going to absolutely blow us away, I don't think we really go too far into that. I know Zach Kuntz was a guy that we talked about last year, potentially in the draft. He was drafted by the 7th round pick by the New York Jets. So potentially maybe we go with him. But I feel like overall wise, if we don't target one in free agency, I think what we do, and if you saw my mock draft, you saw I took a tight end later on in my mock draft. We either go Brock Bowers or we go a tight end later on in the draft. So like potentially 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th pick. A third day pick will be a tight end position. Could we go with a tight end in the 2nd round? Absolutely. I've talked about many times a tight end from Texas, Sanders. I think his name Jawan Sanders, I believe. I'm probably incorrect on the first name. He's a pretty solid pick from Texas. Potentially you could go with him. He would be a great option, in my opinion, to go with. Now let's talk about tackles. Because if we cannot remain, with Jonah Williams, could we potentially sign a tackle? Absolutely. I have no problem, and I'm going to say this right now, I have no problem with signing a tackle and then drafting a franchise tackle. I know you might say, well, if you're going to use a 1st round pick on a franchise tackle, you're going to want him to start day 1, correct? Potentially not. Because if the guy you're drafting is a raw talent but has really high upside, probably not. If the guy has, is just ready to go, kind of groomed to be a starter, then yes, you're probably going to start him. But not every single player you draft is because of the fact that they're NFL ready within seconds, ready to go out there and be a starter. Some of them are raw talents that you just want to, that you have high potential and high grades on, and you think could be really great options. Now, you could go with Trenton Brown. He was a New England Patriot. He was also a Las Vegas Raider at one point. Could go with him. He's an option. DeJuan Brown, who was a Jet, who was also at one point a Houston Texan. He's 38 years old. I'm probably not going to go with him. There isn't many great options, though, at the tackle position in free agency. So this is why, again, I will repeat, I truly believe you take a tackle this year in the first round. I said it last year. Well, I said last year I was very more bolster on tight end last year. If you watch my draft videos, you know I was 100% on Michael Mayer last year. And then when we got up to pick and Dalton Kincaid was already taken, I was 1000%, hey, listen, it's either Michael Mayer or Sam Laporta. We didn't take either guy. So, but this year, I'm more on the fence of I want to take a franchise right tackle. James Hurst, the old Ravens / Saints right tackle. Potentially, again, there are options available. And with the offensive line, again, you need to address the problem of Frank Pollock, and then you address the offensive line. So first, address the offensive line, bring someone else in, and here's how I look at it, right? They will make the decision on what offensive lineman they would go with. Because it will be on their scheme, on their system, and they'll figure out which offensive linemen are the best. Because there are good options available. There are good options. Not as many as I would like, but there are options available. And the thing is, again, a lot of these guys potentially will probably resign with their team and will not come back. But we need to address the offensive line coaching and position also. And a little side note here, I do want to also talk about this because somebody commented down below and told me, they said, well, what about the other coaches? Not obviously Zach Taylor, Brian Callahan, Lou, but what about the other positional coaches? How about a defensive line coach? Defensive line coach clearly is not that great. Yes, there is other coaching positional coaching groups that we do need to address, but we need to start with the offensive line first, okay? You kind of, you tear down one section at a time. You can't look at a gigantic problem and say, all right, let's just face it head on. No, you dissect it. You go line by line and say, okay, number 1, fixed. Number 2, fixed. Number 3, fixed. Number 4, fixed. You can't just go all at once and just throw yourself at the problem. You have to dissect the problem and take it one step at a time. And that's why I'm saying, again, I talk a lot about the offensive line and firing Frank Pollock. You might say, well, we have all these other problems. I understand we have more than one problem. But we need to fix problem A before we get to B. You can't skip A and go to B and then go back to A. You gotta fit Frank, then the rest of the problems. All right, so let's talk about defensive line. Because there is a lot of great options at the defensive line. Amazing options, depending if they are available when free agency hit and they do not get re-signed. But the question that I keep getting, and I mean keep getting, every single draft video, every single free agent video, every single live stream, I see it all over. This man right here, the going to be 30-year-old man at the time next season kicks around, Christopher Jones. Will we sign Chris Jones? Here's the thing, right? We can't afford Chris Jones. We can't. We fully cannot afford Chris Jones. Not at the money that he's going to want. Could we potentially get him on a multi-year contract, push the money back, void years, all that kind of stuff? Potential. And again, you could potentially sign anyone based on if the contract's right and he'll work with us. But if he wants the money that he's been very vocal on, probably not. By the way, this is why void years is so funny. He's going to make $5.4 million as of the 2024 season, day one. He's not on the Chiefs anymore. Let's say the Chiefs don't re-sign him, right? They still owe him $5.4 million check day one of the 2024 season. He counts $5.4 million versus their salary cap. 1.3, 1.3, 1.3. So, even if he never plays another snap, and let's say he retires after this year, he is still going to be paid a total of $10 million from the Kansas City Chiefs. That's how void years work. So, this is all his signing bonus. This was all his signing bonus. So, this void years is all parts of his signing bonus that was taken to make his salary cap hit less, but is going to cost them now. Just a little side note here. So, if we sign him, for example, potentially sign him, we don't have to pay this. They have to pay this. But he's going to be adding whatever we give him plus this money. Would he be a good option? If all things are being considered and money wasn't a thing, would he? Yes. Obviously, 100% yes. He is 29 years old, almost 30. But for the defensive tackle position, that's actually not that bad at all. I know I said with DJ Reader, I was like, oh, he's almost 30 years old. And with his injury, he might retire. DJ Reader's coming off a very bad injury. He's coming off a torn labrum, which is something he had back in 2020, when he couldn't walk, run, or do anything for a year and a half. Coming off an injury like that, after going into free agency with no contract, that's why I said that guy should DJ Reader should potentially retire. I didn't say he should. I said he might retire because of that. We saw Geno Atkins. We gave him a 4-year contract for $80 million. He retired after 2 years with us. So that's why I said with that. Chris Jones is coming into free agency with no injury designation, no problems. He's 100% okay. And as long as a player with D-tackle position, as long as they're not having any injuries, they can go out there and be a pretty solid piece for their team for a long time. They can play to the 35-36. Look at Fletcher Cox. They can be a really solid piece for 35-36. And I'm talking about not like a backup, like an actual liable starter. So, in all things being considered, Chris Jones is not that old. But the thing is here, again, and I repeat 1,000 times, it's the money. So, in a perfect world, yes, sign Chris Jones. Bring him in. Have him and potentially bring back DJ Reader, try to get him back on the contract, and then do that. But at the end of the day, DJ Reader is going to cost a lot of money. He will. And if he doesn't retire, which, again, like I said there was a potential. I don't personally think he will retire. But there is a potential he will. If he doesn't, and he gets free agency, let's look at market value. Market value of DJ Reader is $16 million a year. And I know in my video I said, well, we could try to get him for $6 million a year. Again, I'm talking about if he takes the team-friendliest contract possible. If he's like, hey, I want to be a Bengal. Because look at Logan Wilson's contract. Logan Wilson could have made a lot more money than what we paid him if he hit free agency. But he took a team-friendly deal, as he said himself, because he wanted to sign the guys around him. So, again, the same concept would happen with DJ Reader. But yeah, Chris Jones would be a great option. There are also some other guys in free agency at the D-tackle position that I personally really like. So again, there are other options at the D-tackle position if you do lose DJ Reader, or you could draft somebody, as I've talked about many times in my draft videos. So now let's look at outside linebacker, and again, like I said, it's kind of like a desert wasteland, I would say, for the most part. Anthony Barr, wow, I think he did retire. I want to say he did retire, right? Anthony Barr? He's still on Minnesota Vikings roster? He is. That is so insane. I feel like he's so old at this point. I feel like he's so old. I literally see his age. He's 32 years old. But I don't know. It's just, I feel like I remember him for so freaking long at this point. Middle linebacker, we could potentially look at. We do need a linebacker in some orientation, because I don't think Gaither is an option at this point. Like, he's not that great. Patrick Queen, imagine. I would not mind Patrick Queen. Get another LSU guy who played with Joe. Bring him in. That would be a really awesome option. If we could get Patrick Queen for a good enough option, the Ravens declined his 5th-year option. I wouldn't be against the idea of going Patrick Queen here. Now let's talk about the very important position, corner and safety. Because this is something that if we lose Cheeto, we're going to have to start to address. Eli Apple is on this right here, by the way, in case you're wondering. And by the way, Eli Apple's market value, according to this website, is $16 million a year, which I still find hilarious because that's not correct at all. He is not a $16 million a year type of cornerback in any way. Jeff Okudah, I'm very interested in. I know he went from the Lions and he got traded to Atlanta. I'm very interested in him. I know he's not the greatest option of all time, but as a rotational piece being 25, if he hits free agency, I wouldn't be against the idea of picking him up and seeing what he could do. CJ Henderson is also another guy I'm really interested in. I know Rockenson is on the Ravens now, came from the Raiders, not really too interested in him. Michael Floyd, not interested in him. No. Trey Flowers, he's just too old. I think Atlanta re-signs him in all honesty. L'Jarius Sneed, if he becomes a free agent, I don't think he will. I don't think the Chiefs will let him go in any way possible. Yeah, so, again, like I said, I'm probably looking toward the draft for some of these cornerbacks. And then safety position, whoever we get would just be, because Jordan Battle's a starting strong safety now, Dax Hill starting free safety. So whoever we get would just be a backup or rotational piece. So we're not going to go out there and spend big money on any, one player. We're not going to go out there and try to get Chauncey Gardner-Johnson. If he does hit free agency, keep in mind some of these guys will not hit free agency. Yeah, so I don't think, we're going to go out there and go crazy on some of these guys. But P.J. Locke in Denver, if they somehow don't bring him back, I wouldn't be against the idea of going with him. I think he could be a really solid player. He's a solid player for Denver. But, yeah, so that's kind of where I'm sitting on a lot of these different things. Tell me down below your thoughts and opinions. I'll see you guys next one. Peace.